Here we are, Sherry, just so excited to be celebrating your amazing book launch today and just delighted for this day to have come because your book, Busting Out of the Matrix, has been a long time in coming. It's been a work in progress for many years. Let's talk about this amazing book. And you are a best-selling book author right now. So that's some good news. So we're just really excited to have this conversation today. Talk about this book. Um, how did it come to be?
Well, it's, I would say, lots of years of educating myself. And it came into be from this fabulous word called question. I have always been questioning everything all of my life, but it didn't mean I found the answers where I was supposed to find the answers from. And through my quest in history, or his story and her story, from a little girl, the quest started to find out real answers and to find out the difference between what was true that I was taught or told and what is the truth. Because a lot of the truths never rang well to me at all. And so it's finding the truth. And that's really what this book is about, busting out of the matrix. Be free. Because when you find your own truth, that makes the difference in how you live your life, how you create your life, and how you be.
Well, how we be in the world is really important, and I think our health is affected by how we be in the world. So, what is this matrix that you talk about?
Well, the matrix is a series of boxes. And these boxes are how we get boxed in through duality's belief systems. So I ask this always, what's the first letter of the word belief? B. First letter of the word system? S. Put it together, it's BS. And that's what I have found out about duality. It's just absolutely nothing. I mean nothing but belief systems, except that these belief systems have an effect, an effect, and an infect on our lives. And it's
So,
symbolic.
so yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Well,
So, where do we get these belief systems?
we get these belief systems from some sort of an authority figure who interpreted something and spilled out an opinion about something without really knowing what the facts are. And so, facts, those are perceptions, are the receptions and deceptions of our conceptions, but facts are perspectives. And one of my primary keys, the first tool I teach is NEO, non emotional observer. And when you become the non emotional observer, first to yourself and then to life, you will be amazed at how your vision opens up. And I call it, Becky, realize with a real eyes what is really going on and what has been going on for eons, for centuries, for years and years, because duality is the matrix. Duality is the matrix.
So, as far as duality, um, where does how did that start? How did we start through humanity in this way?
Well, duality is one of the most awesome control issues. The word control, the con of the troll, and control is actually elicited through our left computer brain. I actually talk about it. I teach about it and have been doing it for well over 30 years and even more. So when we are controlled in our left computer brain, it actually goes to the right male side. This is not gender, and that's how we right side, male side, manifest, manufacture, and manipulate. Because duality is male consciousness. This is not has anything to do with gender. It is zero to do with gender. And when we are being controlled through the matrix of duality, and duality has this wonderful symbol. It's this sideways figure eight. And Britney Spears sang it so well. Oops,
Oops, I
I
did it
did
again.
it again. And that's what happens.
Wow. And I think, our society is, from the time we're born into this world, it's all about control.
Totally.
Because not only from our own parents, because that's all they know, but
Yes.
also be from the schools that we go to, life in general, religion. If we're involved in religion, you get a triple dose of that.
Yes.
Our political scene is the same way. So
Oh,
it's
yes.
everywhere we look, actually.
That is absolutely the truth. And the name of the political parties change. Whigs and Tories go back to Romans and Huns or whatever it is. And, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't really matter. But what really matters is finding out the truth and how humans, and in this book, I talk about becoming a real human before all of this left brained and DNA manipulation in the body, and how easy it is, so easy for the controllers to control and manipulate people, and they buy right into it. In research, did you know that they had depression way back in the Roman days, but they didn't call it that? Or, people had anxiety because in the DNA are the patterns of disease or illness or dis-ease, and all illness across the board is emotionally based. And the left computer brain is the best way to control people's emotions. And contrary to popular belief, there is this wonderful oxymoron out there right now, and it is a moron. I'm telling you, it's a moron. And it's called,
Oxymoron.
yes, an oxymoron, and it's called emotional intelligence. I can absolutely promise you there's not one ounce, not one speck, not one cell, not one particle, not one molecule to the subatomic level of the human body where emotions have intelligence. They do not. It is left computer brain. And don't you just love the idea? And our left computer brain, if you go back to 286 computers years ago, for some of you don't know, and you're attempting to download an app, it can't happen. It can't happen. Now, just go through all the eons and the centuries on this planet and in this duality universe. Everybody is always trying to control everybody else. And so we have some that are leaders and then the followers. And then the followers become the leaders. And then the leaders become the followers. And that is that and never
It's
ending
that endless
cycle.
cycle of everything that just keeps on going on and on and on,
Yes. Do over,
not
do over, do
changing.
over. Mhm.
Same with the wars that have happened over all these centuries of just you. It just keeps repeating, and I keep saying, "When are we going to learn? When are we going to stop this nonsense?" We all know that war doesn't work, but what do we have? More war and more war.
Exactly. And that's why I wrote this book and my other books. I wrote them about is the introduction and explaining in really clear ways. And for those that have read the book and that have already put out, their reviews, it's just exceptional. It's getting 5-star ratings already. And this is our launch. It tells the truth. Now, we might be uncomfortable at times with the truth, but the truth is the truth and the truth sets you free. It's not true. And when people ask me, how could you know this stuff? You're not a scientist, you're not a researcher. How do you know? You don't know what's inside of you. When I wrote my first book and started in 91 about cellular memory, people said I was nuts. I was crazy. I was whatever. And guess what? Through transplants, cellular memory were received by the recipients from the donors. So I actually coined cellular memory in the lay community way back when, even though people thought I was nuts. And now, guess what? Now I'm going to give you information on the DNA. I actually talked to a physicist about it, and he said, you know what? He said, you're like 200 years ahead of us. I go, oh, further than that, I'm not kidding you. So, what I'm doing is bringing you the future here, now, in the moment for you. So,
So,
it's not for me to convince you, it's for you. How does it feel to you? I don't care what you think about it. I really don't care. But I care how you feel about it because your heart is your real brain and your cellular information, your cellular memory, which is a composite of all of your experiences in your continuum in your body. So I break all the belief systems. And that's my job. That's what I signed up for. And I love every moment of it.
That's amazing. So you talk about the God program, the robot program, the game in your chapters in your book. What do you mean by those? Uh,
Okay, the God program. Let's do the God program. You know what, Becky? My God's better than your God. And my God's smarter than your God. Did you know you are God? I mean, it even says you're made in God's image. Why are you less? You are less because you have to have an intermediary for yourself to yourself. If you are already God, I'm not talking about you being an A God. Let me tell you, we got enough A gods on this planet. You know what? I really embrace the shoe gods. I'm not kidding you, but I don't worship them. But I do like their creativity. And what did God do in the beginning? Created. That's what we came here for, to create. And we have a little visitor here. This is my kitty. She loves to get involved.
my dogs are doing the same thing.
Yeah, she wants to be involved in all of this. You know, animals are smart. I always say, really, they're much more intelligent than humans. You know why? Because they trust themselves. And humans have been taught not to trust themselves. From the minute the sperm hits the egg, we're in. I actually wrote a wonderful article for a very famous baby doctor. And that was what it is. You know, the minute the sperm hits the egg, you're in. I'm not kidding you. So, but you just keep recycling. This is a recycle. Now how do we recycle? It turned into the hourglass. And the hourglass is the same darn thing. And then guess what? Let's take that hourglass, Becky, and let's move it down 3 times. Third dimension. That's what they call this, third dimension. How do you know? Because you were told that, whatever, in somebody's idea. And then you twist it, and you have DNA.
Hey,
Oops, I
wow.
did it again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bring up those profiles. The actress who married the same man 8 times, 4 best friends were gay, same profile. Her kid became her and she became her because that's what duality is: profiles, behaviors, and roles. And we try and try and try, which is so tried, to rationalize and logicalize it. Logic is the log I see that blocks my way. And what I teach you to do is how to realize with real eyes what the heck's going on. And that's what this book is about: busting out of the matrix, the duality matrix, to free yourself because you deserve to be a real human, not a programmable, controllable human, but a real human.
So where does one start? I know you have you teach a class, I believe it's called the Anshara method.
Mhm.
So where does one start if this is starting to resonate? And for those that are listening, you can pick up a copy. There's a link right in the chat as to how to get a copy of Sherry's book, Busting Out of the Matrix, Be Free. And so let's continue this conversation, Sherry. Where do we start, and how is your process when you work with an individual to help them to get to at least guide them to how to go about doing this?
Okay, first, when someone comes to me, whether I'm working with them, over 20, 25% of my clients I've never met in person. But then a lot of times they'll come here and they'll fly to visit me from all over the world. I kid you not. And so the first is to find out what is their labels, what are their diagnosis, the diagnosis, to find out what it is and where is it in the body. And it's all about resonance. It doesn't matter if it's duality resonance or conscious resonance. But within 10 minutes, believe it or not, you can get to the origination point, to the core of your emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, financial issues. Those 5 words mean the same thing. It's all the emotional hook to them whenever it happened. And it can happen the minute the sperm hits the egg through what we call contracts, the con of the
Right.
tracks. And so when you, within those 10 minutes, it doesn't mean you have a solution, but what you do have that you don't get from all of the outside, that someone's going to heal you, someone's going to fix you. We all contribute to each other. But in that idea, no one can heal you. You have to do it yourself, but you have to have the tools. And that's what the Anshara method is, the AHA method of accelerated healing and abundance. And when you get to the resolution of why it happened, then the solution begins. But everybody is looking outside for a solution first. It doesn't work that way. We have the
Right.
best of everything. And why are so many people sick? Why are so many people on drugs? And because they're trying and trying and trying to avoid themselves.
Hmm. Wow. How fascinating. To because we do have a world that just look at what's happened since COVID started. Look at all the different things that are taking place in people's lives. And and a lot of humanity is not well.
Exactly. And it hasn't been well. It's again about resonance. Frequency and vibration has zip to do with it. Zippo. Frequency and vibration are byproducts. The same with energy. Energy is a byproduct of either being conscious or being in duality. That's all it is. And so when we're in dual, we are the dualistic, we are the dual, we are the war within. What and they say, well, what happens inside happens outside. But what happens outside has affected, effected, and infected our inside so that it changes the deep, real human person that you are before the manipulation that I write about in the book, in the DNA. It was manipulated. And duality is absolutely nothing but a matrix. It is a matrix of manipulation. It is a manipulation of sucking the energy out of you, of taking away your power into the control. Power is who you are. It's the control. That's the force. The force be with you. How many freaking movies does it take to get rid of the empire? And they're still here. Hello. They change names and they may change costumes and they may change timelines, but the stage is the same. It's time to get off their stage and take back our own power. And there's more of us than them. I'm not kidding you. And so when you start taking back your own power, your resonance changes. And then the other person's resonance, and we connect. And the next thing you know, we are a real human race of power, of power. And what can they do? They can't. Would somebody who's controlling you like you to know who you are? Absolutely
They
not.
don't want you to know that.
Absolutely not. And people say, well, if you have knowledge isn't enough, and understanding is enough. But when you begin to comprehend who you really are before the manipulation in the DNA, before, and you know what? In the book, it describes where did some of these diseases come from? Where did that emotionality come from? Do you think
Mhm.
that the war only happened here? It happened across this universe. It has happened multiple, multiple times. And everybody is looking outside for someone to save them. No, there's no one going to save you. I don't care what you call them, what you identify. You have to save yourself. And you have to save yourself by saying to yourself, I require and desire and deserve to be a real human. This is the time. This is what they talked about, the change, the transformation, whatever words, the shift. It is time to take your head out of your duality belief system, formerly known as your assets that aren't working, and step into your own power. That's what your heart is about. This is not woo woo. I'm not booga booga in any way. I believe in sticking to the facts and get to the bottom line. Always been this way. And so to look at some of the things that we've been taught is a lie. Matter of fact, everything we've been taught is a lie. Not judging it, but they did the best they could with what they knew and didn't know, and they mostly didn't know. And I will share this, Becky. When I was 8 years old, third grade, raised my hand and said, well, if Columbus discovered America, how come there were people living here? And the teacher said to me, memorize it and pass the test. And that's what I talk about. Duality is cellular memorization. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Wow.
But you know the truth inside you, and your truth can differ from mine. That's okay. That's why I don't teach oneness, because oneness says we're the same. We are not. That's why I teach allness, because it's the allness of you, the allness of you that connects the connectedness through our heartness so we can all be unique, because we came here to be the God within ourselves, to create our lives consciously and not be in pain and sickness. Can you imagine if we all became a real human? What could be created on this
What an
planet.
amazing earth this would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and everybody'd want to come here. I don't blame them. And that is
So,
who you are.
so how do we begin? What's our process to start to escape this duality trap?
First, to accept that you are deserving of this.
Mm,
And the first step is NEO, non emotional observer. When you are non emotional and you don't take it personally, but you personalize it. So here's personally, I drive down the street, somebody cuts me off, I make up this story, the next person I see, and somebody cut me off, and then the next thing you know, you're exploding the energy. But I personalize it. Oh, I'm glad they're in front of me. And it has no effect, or infect on me whatsoever. And that's Neo. And you know that people come up to me, honestly, Becky, all the time because I put out a resonance. Ask me anything, not like I know everything, but to make the connection. And those resonances, guess what happened? People come up to me all the time that I don't even know and just start talking to me. It's wonderful. That's called connectedness through my heartness and the allness of that person and the allness of me. Honestly, I love to do what I get to do every day is watch people free themselves.
mm. And that has to, it feels good, but they still have to be willing to do that on their own. They have
Yes.
to desire it. They have to be willing to do what it takes.
And that's the word. Someone will come to me and say, Sherry, I'm ready. I go, ready for what? Ready for bed, ready for lunch, ready for what are you ready for? Ready for what? Well, not quite ready. No, you're not ready. But when someone comes and says, Sherry, I'm willing, I am willing. And that is the beginning. That's a resonance. The willingness to look at things in a completely different way that isn't constricted and confined in the matrix. The matrix is a box of duality. Boxes and you know what? The fascinating thing about duality, it is permanently temporary. Permanently temporary.
Wow. So when you're talking about the boxes, you think of um, I'm boxed in, I'm think outside the box, all these different things just with the very word box and what that implies.
Yeah, I don't even have a box. Why? Why even have a box that's limited? We have a higher self and lower self. That is such BS. That is the biggest bullshit ever. You know why? It's to separate you. Then you have this side and that side. No, you are a whole, a WHOLE, not a HOLE person, entity, human, whatever. So in this book, it's showing you, teaching you, advising you, guiding you, whatever it is, to become a real human. Because the human race never had a chance to become a human race from all the manipulation, especially in the DNA. That's where it started.
Hmm.
And it's appalling. And when people ask me, how do you know that? Because I came here knowing it. I just came here knowing it. And, this has been, in our idea of linear time, a long haul, but it isn't really. We deserve to be a real human race, not racing around, but be within ourselves. You deserve to be a real human. You deserve to know you are the God within you, not some outside God that tells you you're bad and wrong. I could never get that. I'm not going to tell you, but I quit my religion when I was 6 years old. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Doesn't matter. But I just told my mother, it just doesn't make any sense to me. At 6,
Right.
I wouldn't go. I said, there is no way. Not happening.
Wow. Well, you are a very unusual type of person.
You can
You know,
say that
and
again.
you and yet there's a certain amount, there's that truth of the core of it, because when you think about through people's lives and the things that they encounter, and the control that you talk about does start oftentimes from the moment we are born, and it continues on in every aspect of life. So you talk about in one of well, all throughout your book, but you talk about wordology, and you have a book called The Sherryisms,
Yes.
which we also published, which was super cool. But in this process, what is it with words that I know you have? your Sherryisms are very, very fascinating. But the words, the use of words, why is that so important?
Because language has been used to control us. That's why they called it Babylon. Get it? Babylon, Babylon. That's when all the languages were supposedly changed because we had one language. Come on, wake up, everybody. And so now everybody babbled on. So this is what I find fascinating. Consciousness is the truth. So I have worked with individuals. I did not speak their language. I couldn't speak their language if I tried to speak their language. And they had an interpreter. And guess what? Guess what? Within those 10 minutes, in their own language with the interpreter, they got to the core of their cancer, of their depression, of their anxiety, of their PTSD, of whatever it is, because our body records everything, Becky, everything. It records it. Your Encyclopedia Britannica of you and your entire continuum. And that's why when something happens and the computer brain goes, oh, hey, that's familiar. Let's re traumatize
I
ourselves
know
again.
that one.
Yeah, I know that one. That happened when I was 7. Oh no, that happened when. Oh, let's do it again. Recycle bin. Have it, lost it, did it again. Blah 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 blah. And that gets caught up in that left computer brain. And so we've been told that the left computer brain knows everything. It doesn't know shit. Honestly, it doesn't. But it does know the programs of duality. But when you begin to connect to your cellular memory of your experiences, now you have this thing called discernment. And when you begin to discern what is correct for you and what isn't, instead of right or wrong. Because Becky, I know you're wrong and I'm right. That's just a fact. Who said it was a fact?
Oh, oh, I've heard that one in a long time. Yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
interesting. Very, very interesting. So, how does one, on a personal level, if they maybe just don't um, live near, but they're hearing this interview and they want to do it themselves, how do they begin to cut the bands of duality?
Okay, how they do is they have to be willing to really, as Neo, non-emotional observer, begin to even look at themselves. They have to begin to look at how am I participating? What is my wordology? Is my biology? What is that languaging? But it's the unconscious language that says you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, or we can have it. How many millionaires, billionaire, rock stars, or whatever, they had it all, and look what happened to them because somewhere deep inside them, they didn't believe in themselves. Now, I'm not talking about cosmetic surgery. I'm not against it or for it. It's whatever it is. But how many of them have tried to change their look, their color, their nose, their whatever, and it didn't work? Because somewhere with all this wonderful creativity and magnificent of their talents, they still ended up having a terrible end.
Hmm.
We came here. People ask me every day, Sherry, what's my purpose? You know what I ask them? Which one? Which purpose? My purpose in the kindergarten was to get my little ass into the first grade. That was my purpose in the kindergarten. And that's to get my little aspects to the next time. So it's about education. But I will tell you, I don't believe we're educating anybody here at all. All we're doing is reprogramming them. Does it matter? And this was another question about timelines. So I raised my hand in a history class, and I said, you know what? What exactly was the fall of the Roman Empire? Was it like March 2nd, way back in something BC? And the teacher said, why do you ask these questions? And I said, why don't people ask these? I don't get it. So it's a process. Duality is a process, do over, do over.
Hmm.
But this is a progressive process. When you begin to educate yourself, you didn't come here to be sick. So how about those? Well, our family has it, you're going to get it. Or we're on this side of the tracks. Or who said what tracks? You are being on tracks. Let's get off the con and make your own journey and get off the tracks. And that's what I
Wow.
teach people. That's one of the tools is to cancel the contracts and make agreements where you can agree to disagree. And you know what? Everyone tells me this. Sherry, what you teach, what you do, what you show, it makes sense. My question is if it doesn't make sense, why do we keep perpetuating these myths, even the hysterical myths that someone did this or someone did that? Why do Northern and Southern, why are they fighting? What about the DNA? Your DNA is a con job. It's a box. That's what it is.
Wow.
And so we are so taught to belief system this stuff. How can you believe in yourself? How can you? And that's my passion, is to show people how to believe in themselves, not belief system. It is.
Wow. Truly fascinating. So for those that are listening, and will be listening later on, because this is going out to many different places all at the same time. So some will discover this conversation at another point. Be sure and pick up a copy of this book. It's interesting. It's a very fascinating read. And if you go to Amazon, we do have it in our stream here as far as how to purchase the book. But take time to just really sit and read this book, and read it with the open mind, the open heart, that you can take it in and soak it in, because it is about the willingness, truly about the willingness to accept that there's a different way, to accept that, and to believe in a different way, and to think in a different way, and to know that we deserve the very best of the best. And that's why we're here. Sherry, this is fascinating. We're going to have another event at 3 o'clock. It'll be also live on all the social medias. If you tap in, tune into this, to the next interview that we're going to have. And if you know somebody that you think this would just really resonate with, be sure and share this with them. We would so appreciate it. Right now we have Sherry Anshara. She is a best-selling author of the book Busting Out of the Matrix, Be Free. Pick up a copy, and we'll see you back here around 3 o'clock. Thank you.